the big ones we're going to focus you guys in on to respond to the next question are 3, 4, 7, and 8. Learning in the flow of work, learning ecosystems and experiences, establishing critical mindsets, and establishing roles and responsibilities. So my first question, given those trends that I've just spoken about, especially those ones that I've highlighted, what are your big priorities in 2021, and which of those trends do you see being really relevant for you guys, and in what ways? So, Teresa, I'll start with you.
Well, then I can't leverage off the great comments of my other panelists. That's a shame. I think probably for me, one of the ones that's been triggered by the work that we're doing now is the ecosystems of learning. Probably the fact that there is no one solution to rule them all, that it's a combination of technologies, of events, of online, of offline, of what we put out, of what people bring in and what they contribute. And for me, I think mapping that and understanding it and helping other people move beyond thinking about what a classroom is and what training is really, really challenging. And I think that's been a real struggle with when we're working with people, like we're doing a product launch at the moment, and people go, but what about the training? Everything we do, when we connect, when we talk with people, what we share, the messaging we give them, and every interaction is part of that kind of learning experience, and getting people to understand that. That means that everybody in the organisation, not just the L&D department, has to be working on song to raise the capability or to engage people and get their mindsets about wanting to take part of the learning. So I think ecosystems, and with that then comes the revolving roles and responsibilities. Even very simply, our technical trainers who we're used to dealing with people in a workshop and with a spanner in hand now have gimbals and phones and webinars and create videos and edit. So there's a real shift in what the skills you need to bring this sort of stuff to life.
And I think you also mentioned in your team, one of your other team members has come in from, I think, a marketing role. So do you want to share a little bit about your vision for that as an evolving role and responsibility?
Yeah, so one of the great opportunities with COVID and has been change. And one of my new colleagues comes from a media planning background, but she's also been working with social media and comms, and that's really going to be critical as we start to implement changes to the business. How do we communicate really effectively? How do we, when we start to introduce two-way communication, having someone who's used to engaging and understanding how to respond to commentary, how to engage with people when they're on the platform. So I think that also means that a big chunk of someone's job is actually being present in the learning environment, in that ecosystem on a much more regular basis, not just uploading a course or running a report. So I think we're going to see different skill sets coming in, more than just traditional, say, instructional design or facilitation. People with really good communication and media skills.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I'm really excited about seeing how that evolves for you guys, and moving from learning as an event, right, where the whole engine has to start up again to get the learning ready, versus learning as a continuous stream where you're just inserting learning into an existing stream, because it takes the same amount of energy to get any train to move its first 5 miles as it does its next 20 miles, right? And I think, with a new vehicle launch or a new product launch, having to restart that engine every time must be taxing.
Completely agree, Ben. And you can do, I think, in your idea of an agile, you don't have to wait till you've got all the answers to start piloting it. So, how you can start to combine events now, how you can test and learn, even with the technologies you've got on hand at the moment. I think that's some of the things we're starting to look at, to say to people, what's the training program going to be? Well, it's not determined fully yet, because we will respond as events unfold to the needs of the people, to what's happening in the market. So there is no, to say to people, what's the finite solution? People have to also be comfortable that there's a bit of ambiguity about that. There's a framework and a plan, but you need to be able to respond to what's happening with learners and with the market to be able to get really good outcomes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Teresa, sharing a little bit of insight. So, Cindy, over to you. So your big learning priority or big mission that you want to achieve, and what are the trends that are going to be most relevant for you?
Yeah. Ben, I think for UOB, reskilling continues to be the main focus for the next few years. In fact, right, this is not a one-year engagement kind of thing, but what you have highlighted in terms of the learning trend, Zach has kindly put on the chat here.
Yeah.
All of these four are really very important to us. But if I were just to kind of focus on how do we continue the momentum that we have, that mindset, how do we make people want to learn, like Ben, you have mentioned earlier, that's the key first. And then when people want to learn, I think we also need to focus on how do we provide that learning ecosystem and experience. So then they already want to learn, and hopefully with that experience going through that learning, they continue to, wow, I'm successful in this, I want to continue learning. And I think to support that as an L&D practitioner, in fact, the entire HR, we've also seen that we are no longer traditional L&D where we create program. In fact, a lot of the programs we actually bought with our training partners, right? A lot of our time is now spent on actually influencing our stakeholders and advising and hopefully kind of telling them, oh, look, this is not happening yet, but it's going to happen soon, and this is what you need to do now. So that skills, I think L&D practitioners in UOB, we are trying to now upgrade ourselves in that, moving from L&D to more of an advisor to the business.
Consultancy. Would you say education is a critical, like, because
yes,
if someone's whole life experience with learning has been lectures at university, e-learning and compliance training in the company and classroom training, and now you're saying none of that or just a little bit of that,
Yeah, and in fact, I think there is a lot of times when we have brilliant talents with a lot of experience in that field, but not really a lot of business experience or exposure. There is a lot of disconnect there, and we find it not to be very effective. So upgrading our L&D colleagues priorities for us too.
Yeah, I think we could put that under establishing critical mindsets, because from a GP perspective, when we're working, whether it's at an RFP stage or actually in a project or an existing partnership we have with one of our clients, the mindset thing is our biggest hurdle from the outside looking in, right? How do you actually show someone something they haven't seen before and let them know that this is actually what you're asking for, you just haven't seen it yet, and it's a big battle. And then beyond that, the stakeholder engagement. So what we find more than any other period in our history as a company, change management is a fundamental part of the design of an experience. So how do I launch an experience whilst also considering the change management dimension, and not just of the learners, but of their managers, of the key stakeholders, So that's something that we devote way, way, way more time than we ever used to, where it was more just an event and someone disappears at a hotel for 2 days and then reappears at work. It wasn't something you had to think about as much. So, okay. Thank you so much, Cindy. VJ,